Hello and happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone watching and those who watch later had a good weekend. I had an amazing weekend. Double H went to see one of his besties and the Cowboys, which sadly was not great since the Cowboys lost. So be gentle. But my bestie Cheryl came in and we had a true girls weekend with brunch mimosas. We got dressed up, went out to a nice dinner, had some pool time, took the bestie to her first drag show, and she loved it. And we did once again learn that we are in our 50s and not in our 20s. And we, especially me, are paying the price today. But guys, it was well worth it. You will see no sparkling water in a cup today. I am drinking liquid IV and good old fashioned Ozarka to try to combat the fact that I'm not 20 anymore. So I am Terry True Crime, and welcome to Midday Missing, where I cover current missing person cases. For those of you that are new here, currently True Crime and Wine Time Productions produces the podcast True Crime and Wine Time, The Hey Ho Show, The Investigation into the Disappearance of Chase Lackey, Night Court, Women on Death Row, the transcripts, of course, Midday Missing, and our newest series, Dearest Mother's Darkest Secrets, will premiere tomorrow for our channel members at noon. Now, our general public and subscribers will get it on Tuesday, October 2nd at noon Central Time. Okay, now our paid channel members will get all episodes of Dearest Mother's Darkest Secrets a week before the general public. So if you're dying to get it early, you can go. We have multiple tiers. Also, we have exclusive content that only goes out for our channel members. Okay. Also, we have some exciting news that we are dying to share, but we can't yet. I will say, I'm not always the best secret keeper, so it's been killing me, but we will spill the beans on October 1st. So, if you want to get some tips and teasers, you're going to want to be sure you follow our True Crime and Wine Time and Terry True Crime socials to get a few tips about what's coming. It's pretty big, guys. It's fun. So, let's get into our first case today. Excuse me. So, today we are getting into the case of Christopher Bush. He was a 2-year-old boy who vanished from a Germantown neighborhood in, sorry guys, my computer just flicked at me, in April 5th, 1975. And guys, it is still a very perplexing unsolved mystery for the city of Philadelphia because despite extensive searches and investigations, Christopher has never been found. Guys, think about that. He went missing when he was 2 years old in 1975. I was 5 in 1975. That is a long time for a family to wonder what happened to their loved one, especially, that's a young child. And his disappearance continues to haunt his family and the community. Because, guys, we have to stop and think back in 1975, we did not have the technology that we have now today. All the CCT cameras, the door ring bells, social media. We didn't have all of that. So Christopher was living with his mother, Gwendolyn, and his 3 older sisters in Philadelphia when their lives were turned upside down by a devastating fire in March of 1975. The fire destroyed their home, leaving the family without a place to live and forcing them to rely on the kindness of relatives and friends for shelter. Gwendolyn and her 3 daughters went to stay with Gwendolyn's parents elsewhere in the city, while Christopher was placed in the care of a woman named Patricia Warwick. Patricia was 26 years old at the time, and she has been described as a friend, neighbor, and babysitter to the Bush family. This was not some random person. Okay. It was during this period of upheaval and uncertainty that Patricia offered to take care of Christopher while Gwendolyn searched for a new home and attempted to rebuild their lives. On the morning of April 5th, 1975, Patricia took Christopher out in her maroon 1966 Ford station wagon. And according to her, she drove to a deli located near the intersection of Chew Avenue and Maryland Street in the Germantown area. Now, at approximately 10 a.m., she parked the car and she said she left Christopher inside while she went into the store to make a purchase. She claimed that the car doors were locked and that Christopher, though only 2 years old, was capable of unlocking them if prompted. Guys, I'm guessing, I don't know back then, maybe we didn't have car seats. I don't remember car seats being a thing back in the 70s. So maybe he was just seat belted in. I'm not even sure cars had seat belts then. I think they did. I don't know. But Patricia stated that she was inside the store for about 10 minutes and that when she returned to the car, Christopher was gone. The only trace of him left behind was his small cowboy hat. Patricia said she searched the parking lot and the surrounding area, but there was no sign of the toddler. Guys, what I also found interesting, I could not find whether or not the car was still locked when she got back to it or if it was unlocked. That's a question that I kind of want to know. Now, after searching for an hour, she did contact the police. Now, the disappearance of Christopher Bush sparked, as you can imagine, an intense search by law enforcement and local residents. Authorities combed the area, questioning witnesses and following up on leads. But guys, they were unable to uncover any concrete evidence regarding Christopher's fate. Guys, the mystery of how a young child could vanish without a trace in broad daylight continues to baffle investigators. Because, as I have said many of times, there's not aliens that come and just suck them up. But back then, there wasn't the cameras outside of businesses. Lady in Gray just said in the chat she doesn't remember using seatbelts during the 70s and that we just bounced around the back seat. Okay, that was my memory too. I just didn't know if it was different for 2-year-olds. I don't know. Um, Now, several theories have emerged over all of these years, but none have led to a resolution. Some speculate that Christopher may have wandered away from the vehicle and become lost or injured. Others believe he may have been lured away by someone, either a stranger or someone he knew. Now, there's also the chilling possibility that Christopher was abducted and met with foul play. But, guys, there has never been any suspects identified. Now, despite the passage of 5 decades, Christopher's case remains unsolved. The lack of new information and the silence from authorities have deepened the sense of frustration and helplessness felt by those who knew and loved Christopher. His mother, Gwendolyn, and his siblings have had to live with the uncertainty of not knowing what happened to their beloved son and brother. Guys, I want you to stop and think about that. I know I probably say it too much. Try to put yourself in the situation of Gwendolyn and her other kids. Can you imagine as a mom going to bed every night not knowing what happened to your 2-year-old after you just lost your home to a fire? That is a lot of trauma. Okay. Now, the circumstances surrounding Christopher's disappearance raises many troubling questions. Was Patricia's account of the events that day accurate? Could there have been more to the story than what was reported? Did someone take advantage of the chaos in the family's lives to abduct Christopher? Or was his disappearance the result of a tragic accident? Guys, I like to believe that the police are just withholding the information about whether or not the car doors were locked, because if they were locked, that means Christopher didn't unlock them and get out. Because for them to still be locked, it means someone got him to unlock the doors and then they relocked it. There's just a lot that plays in my mind about that. Now, Chris's case is a heartbreaking reminder of the vulnerability of children and the devastating impact of unsolved disappearances on family. The lack of closure has left a permanent void in the lives of his family, those who knew Christopher, and it remains a dark chapter in Philadelphia's history. Now, guys, I also tried to find out Patricia, this had to have impacted her life too if she wasn't involved. We don't know if she's involved. I don't want to speculate, but imagine being the babysitter in this happening. I do remember being left alone in the car while my mom would run into, it was called Uvalde Superette, or she would run into Seller Brothers real quick, which was our grocery store, or even TGMY, which we called Turtles, Girdles, and Yo-Yos for some reason. But I remember being left in the car and told, do not open this door unless it's me. It was something that was done back then. So there is no shame or shade to throw at Patricia, because if she truly was honest with her account, she has had to live with the devastating impact of this, as well as his family. Now, as the years go by, the hopes of finding answers may diminish, but the memory of Christopher ensures. Guys, I want to say that I still believe in hope, because without hope, there would be no reason to get up every day. I hope that somehow he wound up with a family that wanted him, wanted a child, and that he is still alive out there, and that with DNA, Ancestry.com, 23andMe, I hope that the family will someday get the answers about what happened to him. And I hope he found a loving, loving home. Now, his story continues to be shared in the hopes that one day someone, somewhere, might come forward with the information needed to solve this, 5 decades mystery, and bring peace to the family that has suffered way too long. So I want to encourage you. It's been 5 decades. Doesn't mean your information is not wanted and not good. If you have any information about Christopher Bush, please call the Philadelphia Police Department at 215-686-3093, and let's give Gwendolyn and his sisters the answers they deserve. 5 decades is too long to suffer. So somebody, please come forward and do the right thing. Next up is an older case, but not as old. So next up, we're going to talk about Franklin Gottschalk. And I'm going to just say, I hope that I did not slaughter that. So I think it's Gottshalk. Franklin was last seen on February 2nd, 1997, at his residence in Mason, Michigan, just one day before his 25th birthday. Guys, I don't know why that really hit me. The day before your birthday, that just hit me. He was a bright and ambitious young man. Franklin was an English major at the Michigan State University and was only 3 credits away from earning his degree. However, he did not register for classes for the spring semester of 1997, which was an unusual decision that hinted at some possible troubles in his life. On the day of his disappearance, Franklin left his home in his brother's car, a black and red 1977 Oldsmobile Tornado, without permission. Guys, an Oldsmobile Tornado, those things were like boats. I don't know why the cars were so big back then, but they were like big boats. Now, Franklin was never heard from again, and his sudden and unexplained disappearance set off alarm bells for his family, who described him as a gifted public speaker with aspirations of becoming a teacher. They firmly believe that he would never leave without warning, and he would have contacted them and would contact them if he could. Now, the vehicle Franklin was driving was later discovered abandoned in a parking lot at the corner of Grand River Avenue and Cedar Street in Lansing, Michigan. There was no sign of Franklin at the scene, and this discovery deepened the mystery surrounding his disappearance. Now, shortly thereafter, two bicyclists made a chilling discovery on the Shiawassee Street Bridge. They found two bags belonging to Franklin, but several items were missing from the bag: his black leather jacket and his Detroit Lions coat, his wallet, and a watch. His watch was something that was a gift from his mother. So those things were missing. Now, I don't know how they know they were missing from the bag. I'm assuming they noticed they were missing from the home, so they assume they were missing from the bag. Now, in a strange twist of this case, the Detroit Lions coat was later found discarded in a cornfield in the Mason area. Guys, that is puzzling and just complicates things even further. Now, despite extensive searches, including divers scouring the waters beneath the bridge where the bags were found, no additional clues have been uncovered. And the lack of evidence at these critical locations have left investigators with way more questions than answers. Now, Franklin's family has long suspected foul play in his disappearance. His mother, Adeline, expressed doubt that her son would voluntarily vanish. She believes that if he is still alive, he would have reached out to his family. Her suspicions were heightened when she learned about the disappearance of another young man, Ryan Getz, whose case bore some unsettling similarities to her son's. In 1998, Adeline voiced her concerns, stating, "I don't believe he is voluntarily missing. He would have called if he was alive. It's still a mystery to me, especially since I heard about the Getz boy. It makes me think something is going on." And her words were, you know, prophetic, as she feared that more cases like her son's might occur, urging the need for closer scrutiny of these disappearances. Now, one potential factor is Franklin's disappearance is the possibility that he was struggling with depression. According to the Charlie Project, Franklin may have been experiencing emotional distress at the time of his disappearance. This theory, combined with the unusual circumstances surrounding his decision not to register for classes and the mysterious disappearance of his belongings, has led some to speculate that he may have been in a vulnerable state. Guys, I will tell you, people in a vulnerable state with mental, illness, they are prime targets for people who want to do bad. I did read some places where they said maybe he committed suicide. Guys, if he had committed suicide, they would have found his remains. Okay. And there was no mention of a gun, that he owned a gun, that he shot guns. I couldn't find any of that. However, the lack of concrete evidence leaves room various other theories, including foul play, because the discovery of his belongings in different locations and his bags on the bridge and then his coat in a cornfield suggests to me that someone else was involved in the disappearance, or someone found the bags on the bridge and saw the Detroit Lions coat and said, "Ooh, I like this and want to take it." But then why would they ditch it in a cornfield? That, in my mind, doesn't add up. Okay. Franklin Gottschalk remains missing, and his case continues to baffle investigators and his loved ones. The Ingham County Sheriff's Department is still treating his disappearance as an open case. But after more than 2 decades, there's still no definite leads. So this mystery has left his family without closure and his case unsolved. And I want to say somebody in that town and on that bridge had to have seen who dropped the bags off, right? Why they were there, why the car, why, I mean, the cornfield. I can totally understand how you could go out in a cornfield and leave a jacket and not be seen. It's not like farmers have cameras on the corn, right? But on the bridge, somebody had to have seen something. Nowhere did I see it say it was an abandoned bridge or it was a not traveled bridge. So that that is sus to me, and it tells me somebody knows something. And as I say all the time in the Chase Lackey case, if you know something, be a human. Stand up and tell what you know. You can call in anonymous tips to the FBI, even if they're not looking into the case. Or you can even go to FBI.gov tips and leave a message. So do the right damn thing and let his parents know. Now, some say it's suspicious that he didn't register for college for the last three credits. Maybe he was going to take a semester off. People do that, you know. So that to me is not as suspicious as the fact that his belongings were found in different places. So I'm asking anyone with information about Franklin Gottschalk's disappearance, please call the Ingham County Sheriff's Department at 517 676 2431. His family wants to know what happened, and they are holding out hope for answers. And that is never going to go away, guys. I hear people say, oh, the family needs to move on. It's somebody said that in the Chase Lackey case. And I was like, seriously? You want a family member to stop looking for their missing loved one? Shame on you. Would you want someone to stop looking for you if you went missing? So these people deserve answers. And you can call anonymous. I mean, if you're a coward and you did it and you don't want to get in trouble, call in a flippin' anonymous tip. Okay? Call in an anonymous tip. They're not going to find you because it's anonymous. They can't find you to pay you the reward. They're not going to find you. So do the right thing. Christopher's case, too. Okay? If you suspect that a person in your family could be Christopher and that a loved one took him, abducted him, tell somebody. Okay. Back on True Crime and Wine Time, when I first started the podcast and was doing it alone, I interviewed and covered Zephanie's case. Zephanie was abducted as an infant. Guys, she found her family. Okay. And it turned out the girl who was her best friend turned out to be her sister. Think about that. So somebody knows, somebody could have a suspicion. So I want to challenge everybody, do the right thing. And remember, integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking. Okay. So please call and report the tips. I also want to ask you to please share the missing person flyers, which will be up on True Crime and Wine Time Facebook page and on Terry True Crime after this. Okay. Now, instead of a cute little story today, I wanted to share some disturbing facts. And when I say disturbing, they're disturbing. So buckle up. Okay. I'm going to give you an overview of missing person statistics in the United States. Okay. Missing person cases are a critical concern in the US, and it affects individuals, families, and communities. So I want you to stop and think about that. It affects more than just the family. Think about kids who go missing. Their classmates look at an empty school desk and wonder what happened to their classmate. And they wonder, could it happen to me? Could it happen to someone I know? Then you've got the community who's like, is there a predator in our community who's abducting people? It affects everybody. Okay. It is not a one victim crime. Now, over the past 5 years, data on missing persons in the United States reveals significant patterns and trends that can help us better understand this complex issue. Okay. Now, the National Crime Information Center, they provide the most comprehensive data on missing person cases in the United States. Every year, law enforcement agencies across the country report cases to the NCIC, which compiles and maintains a centralized database. Okay, guys, hope you're ready for this. Now, in 2018, 612,846 people were reported missing. Okay. 2019, it was 609,275. So it went down just a smidge. 2020, 543,018. 2021, 521,705 reported. 2022, 521,435. Now, 2023 is still an estimate, 522,718 reported. Okay. Now, while these numbers reflect the total number of people reported, it is important to understand not all of those are unsolved. Many cases are resolved relatively quickly, with individuals being located within hours or days. For example, there was an Amber Alert in Texas this weekend. Maximus was his name, or Maximilius. And within 24 hours from when I saw the Amber Alert, he was discovered. So please keep that in mind. Also, remember, a significant portion of these cases remain unsolved, leading to long term investigations. They become cold cases, and families are broken and they're missing parts of them. Okay. Now, demographics do play a crucial role in understanding the patterns of missing persons across the US. Data from the NCIC and other organizations reveal disparities in missing person cases based on age, gender, race, and other factors. Children, that's anyone under 18, they account for a substantial portion of missing person cases. Each year, approximately 30% of all reported cases involve minors. Think about that, guys. Think of 30% of 522,000. That's a lot of missing kids. Okay. And this represents roughly, like I said, 180,000 to 200,000 reported missing annually. Now, adults 18 years and older. The majority of missing person cases involve adults, with an increasing trend in cases involving individuals between the ages of 18 and 30. Now, I want to tell you something about that. I personally believe between your 18th birthday and your 30s, your 20s, we're all living life freely. Most of us are. You are learning who you are. You're going out with friends. You're experimenting with alcohol, sometimes with, narcotics, and that makes us more vulnerable. So we need to think about that. Everyone that's in that 18 to 30, you need to think about it. Don't stop experimenting. Don't stop trying to find out who you are, but do it safely. Now, this was shocking to me. Males, historically, males constitute a higher percentage of missing persons. What the hell? That shocked me. Okay. It did. On average, about 60% of reported missing person cases are male. Guys, I had no flippin' idea. And I think it's because the most popular cases we see that the media does are the blonde white females. So I just assumed it was mostly females. And guys, assuming made an ass out of me. So females make up approximately 40% of reported cases. However, among children, females are slightly more likely to be reported missing than males. Guys, one of those reasons is runaways for kids, but also human trafficking, sex trafficking has increased substantially in the last couple of decades. So, the majority of missing person reports involve white individuals, making up about 54% of the total cases. Now, African Americans are overrepresented in missing person statistics. They account for 35% of the cases, despite they're only about 13% of the US population. And let me tell you what the problem is about that. As most of you probably noticed or heard if you follow true crime, individuals who are not white do not get the coverage. We're talking about the African Americans, the Hispanics, the Asian, the indigenous. They do not get the coverage. So 35% of the cases, and they only constitute 13% of our population, there's a huge problem. Okay. Now, Hispanic and Latino individuals represent around 10% of the recorded cases. Now, Native Americans, Asians, and other racial groups collectively account for about 1% of the total missing person cases. Now, I want to say I am not 100% sold on that statistic from the NCIC. And the reason I say that, I hear too often about Native Americans who go missing. And I don't believe it gets reported to the NCIC because a lot of times they still live on tribal land and they have different law enforcement. So I don't believe that's a true number, but I could be wrong. So I don't know. If somebody knows, they should let me know. Now, we need to understand the circumstances under which individuals go missing is crucial for trying to address the issues, okay? Because the causes and circumstances, they widely vary. They are not all cookie cutter. They can be generally categorized. So, runaways. Among children and teenagers, running away from home is a leading cause of a missing person reports. The motivations for running away often include family, conflict, abuse, and mental health issues. But, guys, I want to say runaways are in danger because the minute they go out, they are susceptible. They are not in a good headspace. They're leaving home for a reason. It makes them a prime target to be abducted, which is our next one. Okay. While they say it's rare, abductions, especially by strangers, are among the most feared scenarios. Okay. The majority of abductions are familial, where a non custodial parent takes a child without legal permission. But, guys, I think they say they're rare. I think we're seeing them more and more common. And maybe it's because I'm covering missing person cases now. It still happens where strangers, and when they say familial, that's not including friends. Okay. So an acquaintance could be the abductor. Okay. So we need to remember that. Now, as we know, adults with mental health conditions such as dementia or severe depression are at a higher risk of going missing, often due to disorientation or a desire to withdraw from society. And guys, I want to say for our older population with dementia, it is scary. Okay. They don't know. They don't know where they're going. They think they do, but they don't. And then people who are having a mental health crisis, they're not in a good frame of mind. And once again, this classification, they become targets to become abducted or killed. One thing about this that I didn't find, and I am going to research and I will share it in an upcoming episode, how many of these that go missing that were mental health issues or runaways turn out to become victims of a homicide? That I want to know. So I am going to be looking into that. So some missing persons, particularly young women and children, become victims of human trafficking. Guys, this issue remains a significant concern in the US. But guys, young males are going missing as well. There is an increase, and I hope that the NCIC does follow that because we are seeing more college age 20 something males go missing. Yes, sometimes it's due to the fact they are in a risky lifestyle, but still, I think that's something that's happening more and more. So, in some cases, individuals go missing due to criminal activity, which does include kidnapping, which is a little bit different from abductions, murder, or other forms of foul play. And these cases, they remain unsolved for longer periods. I also think we need to remember that foul play also falls into people going missing because of drug deals or they're in gangs and they do something wrong and they most likely have been murdered and their bodies have been hidden. So the resolution rate of missing person cases varies based on the circumstances of the resources dedicated to finding the individuals. Okay. So while a large number are resolved quickly, others remain unsolved for years. So I had planned on Saturday going to the Honk for Missing in San Antonio because I wanted to support Bianca's family. But when my bestie said she was coming in town, I didn't. I stayed and hung out with her. But cases that are not resolved quickly do tend to linger on for years and years and years. So, on average, about 90% of missing person cases are resolved within the first 5 years. Okay. That includes individuals who return home voluntarily, are located by law enforcement, or are found deceased. Now, something I want to say here, because I often have people ask me, why do you say the family wants their missing loved one returned home, but yet they know the person may be dead? Guys, having your loved one's remains is still returning them home. Okay, so we need to remember that. Them knowing what happened, having their loved one returned, even just remains, is bringing them home. And they are able to then bury them, have a memorial service, and try to start a path to some type of closure. So a small percentage remain unsolved, about 10%. And guys, they become cold cases, as Christopher's case that we just heard, 5 decades. Okay, it's a long time. And as I said earlier, the impact of a missing person case extends far beyond the individual involved. It is not a one victim situation. Okay, families suffer immense emotional and psychological stress, often, often experiencing feelings of helplessness and despair. A lot of families are fractured, couples get divorced, families are broken up because it is traumatic and it is devastating. So, to anyone watching this that wants to do something bad, like take somebody or hurt somebody, don't do it. Okay, don't do it. Don't be a bad person. Think about it. And communities are affected, like I said, especially when it's a missing person or a child when they think foul play is suspected. Because I have to tell you, I remember I ran away when I was in elementary because my mom wouldn't let me play in the front yard. I packed up my little suitcase and I was going to go to all of my neighbors' house to see if they wanted to let me play in the front yard. And if they did, I would live with them. The reason is because the child had been abducted in the neighborhood. Luckily, my Uncle Tom lived next door. He was like, no, Terry Lynn, go home. And I went and knocked on everybody's door, and they were like, no, you have to play in the backyard here too. So I am thankful nothing happened to me. Okay. So to those of you that might be younger who see this, I'm going to tell you, don't run away from home. Okay. Don't run away from home. Now, what we can do to help is we can support organizations such as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children because they play a vital role in assisting families and law enforcement in these cases. Um, and public awareness campaigns and technological advancements, such as the Amber Alerts, have been instrumental in the recovery of missing children. Um, I I believe wholeheartedly the missing person named Amber that it's made after, she has not been found, but her family fighting for Amber Alerts to become a thing has helped find so many children and has helped prevent more families from having to experience this travesty. Now, missing person cases in the US are a significant issue. Like I said, they affect thousands of individuals and families each year. And like I said, many cases are resolved. The persistence of unsolved cases highlights the need for continued efforts in prevention, investigation, and support. And as we move forward, the collaboration between law enforcement, community organizations, and the public remains crucial in addressing this ongoing challenge. And guys, social media plays an important role in helping loved ones be reunited with their loved ones. And that is where we can all help and do our part. Now, I will remind you, and if I need to post it again, I can. If you see a missing person flyer come up on your social media page, take a quick minute and Google the person's name. Make sure it's not a spam. There are horrible people out there who are spamming missing person cases. So I'm going to ask you all to continue sharing the missing person flyers that we share on our social media pages, not just on the cases that we cover, but even on the ones that I see and I reshare on Terry True Crime. Because Lost in Texas does an amazing job of getting the word out there. I will tell you something that has broken my heart is that when I see these flyers, I share them and I go and add the person's name to our list to cover. We could probably cover 2 missing person cases every day, and we would have live shows for the next 5 years. Think about that. That is horrific. The other thing that we can do, get the word out to your local politicians that law enforcement in every county and state needs to have a missing persons unit. Okay. There need to be police officers who are dedicated to these cases. So, what we've learned in so many of these cases, law enforcement doesn't have the bandwidth. I know in Chase's case, that's the case. Harris County doesn't have the bandwidth. And I tried really hard to give them grace for that. But on the other hand, you could still keep in touch with the families and still do the right thing. So we need to all try to get our local government and local law enforcement to get these kind of resources. Because, guys, that 10% that's not found needs to be found. Okay. If we can bring that down to 5%, think of the impact. Just a 5% improval. Think of the impact. So let's do our part. Continue sharing the missing person flyers that we post. Now, I want to thank you all for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing you all again on Wednesday for our next episode of Midday Missing. I also want to remind you to join our Facebook group and follow us on all of our social media channels. We will in the near future be putting out a list of all of them, but True Crime and Wine Time is currently the main page you can follow. Terry True Crime is my social media page that you can also follow. So you're going to want to go there. We share all kind of shenanigans, keep you up to date what's going on. And like I said, we've got a big announcement coming in just a little over a week. So also, you can catch all of our productions here on our YouTube channel and our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. But remember, some of our content will only be on YouTube and will not be streamed live on Facebook. Midday Missing will stay on Facebook and YouTube. So, guys, please, this is so important to me. Until next time, stay safe, watch out for crime, and as always, enjoy your wine time. Bye, guys. See you Wednesday.